Hey guys, what is up? It is your friendly neighborhood Ubus here, back again with another Isaac Breaking Run. This time, we gotta do... I'll probably save Isaac for last. So, Maggie, Blue Baby, Azazel, Lazarus, Eden. And I said I didn't want to do the Lost, man, but I don't know. 310 Eden tokens, huh? I kinda want to do the Lost. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm sadistic. Let's do Eden, though. Alright, there is the seed for you. These are this is actually a pretty comfortable spot in terms of items. We get Juicy Sack, sorry, I'm gonna move the mic. Juicy Sack to start off. Damage is bad. Is it 3-shotting spiders? I believe so. Okay, 3-shotting spiders means we're roughly Eve damage. Which is not good, as you will maybe know. The good news is we should pretty easily be able to kite enemies, as you saw there. Of course, as you also saw there, I am also incapable of not getting hit. So, that's what happened there. It's alright though. Yeah, okay. Let's go this way. Okay. Just line them up. Line them up. Line them up. Okay. Beautiful. Just had to get them all on that sticky patch. Ew. Alright, so we got Chemical Peel. Chemical Peel's sweet. It solves one of our problems of having very low damage. Well, it doesn't necessarily solve it. Every other shot will have increased damage, which is it's pretty significant if I recall. I believe it's like 3 damage or something. It looks like it, yeah. It's like regular hit chunk on pin. Yeah, I believe it's just straight up plus 3 damage on every other tier, which means that it roughly equates to a 1.5 damage up. But, at the same time, not really. That's not really how it works. If you were to hit with every single tier, yes. It would be roughly equivalent. Plus or minus 1 total tier. 1 total tier. But plus or minus 1 total tier on every single enemy. Because of the way that, you know, it would vary. It would vary very much. Get it? Alright. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. So I'm gonna actually take this episode to... Ooh. You cool liar. I'm gonna take this episode to actually talk more about Hearthstone and stuff. Because, so if you don't know who he is, Noxious, who is a Hearthstone caster, Hearthstone personality, if you will. He's a person who happens to play Hearthstone a non-zero amount of the time, and also casts it on occasion. So, if you subbed him on YouTube and you watch his videos frequently, you'll know that he gets really fucking pissed off about Patron. Right, which, as you'll know by now, I'm very against the idea of nerfing Patron Warrior because I don't think the deck is broken. And I can elaborate on that, but basically, he released a video as well as a blog that basically, it was titled, Patron Warrior, everyone get out of here, right? As a joke on the whole... Hey everyone, get in, that you hear every single fucking time that a patron survives not taking lethal damage, which happens quite often, as is the point of the deck. So, the thing is, right, I saw that and I literally just didn't want to watch it. I had a feeling it was literally just going to be him retreading the same ground, saying the same bullshit about how Patron's broken and how Blizzard is a terrible company and made a horrible mistake not nerfing it by now, and blah yada yada. yada blada. Turns out that's not his message. In fact, he said in the video, I watched the video, I didn't read the blog post, but I'm assuming it's similar to the video. In the video, he actually mentioned how he doesn't think Patron's overpowered, it's just an issue with the metagame. And I agree. That's the thing that I agree with, but nobody says that. Like, this is the first time I've actually seen somebody, specifically in the Hearthstone community, in like a public forum of sorts, say that the problem isn't the deck, the problem is how, just kind of like, you know, the metagame, I guess. And the way that that breaks down, the reason that that's the case is that the metagame in Hearthstone, and in card games in general, but definitely Hearthstone is a bit more swingy, dramatic in these respects. But basically, card games are very, very, very heavily based on rock, paper, scissors metagames, right? That's just how they work, okay? That's just a card game thing. And the reason that is, well, first of all, let me just mention, when I say rock, paper, scissors, I don't mean to a point where it's just an automatic win. So I guess in some sense it's not really rock, paper, scissors, but you know, it's a very much a game of metagames will have, you know, a few key players and then a bunch of tier 2s. The tier 2s will attack a key player, but are not powerful enough to beat the other key players, right? So that makes them tier 2, because a tier 1 deck, right, a key player in the metagame, the way it's going to work is that it will have the capability of beating pretty much any other tier 1 deck aside from the counter deck to it, which will also, you know, presumably be tier 1 in most metagames. And so the problem with Patron isn't anything to do with the power level of the cards. It has nothing to do with that. The problem with Patron happens to be the fact that the metagame is very rock, paper, scissors-ish. However, it's got one major flaw that most other card games do not have with their rock, paper, scissors metagame. And that is, there are not enough decks. There just straight aren't, right? So the problem is, if you want to beat Patron, you choose one of about 3 decks, right? There's 3 tier 1 decks that can beat Patron well over 50% of the time. The lowest of the 3 would be, I believe, Control Warrior probably has the hardest time out of the 3, and that still has like a, you know, 60% win rate or whatever. Mid-range Druid and Handlock are the other 2, by the way, in case you're wondering. And these stats are backed up with actual statistics that were gathered from competitive Hearthstone throughout the entirety of Blackrock Mountain release up until the Grand Tournament release, right? So every game of Patron Warrior that was played, every game of every deck in competitive Hearthstone was tracked, and it turns out that Mid-range Druid, Control Warrior, and Handlock all have very good matchups against Patron Warrior. And so the problem is those decks, while good against other decks, they really like have a lot of somewhat difficult matchups. Specifically, there's the boogeyman of Face Hunter, which happens to have an okay matchup, not an incredible matchup by any means, but an okay matchup, generally around 50%, generally a little actually higher in most cases, against all of the previously mentioned decks. So Mid-range Druid, Handlock, Control Warrior, and of course Patron Warrior. It has a lot harder time against the Warriors than the other decks. Handlock is kind of, you know, it's a bit iffy here or there, and you know, and honestly, Patron Warrior probably beats Face Hunter actually over 50% of the time. But anecdotally, I've noticed that while playing Patron Warrior, Face Hunter is one of the decks that kind of terrifies me. And it's simply because of the fact that if you don't get a good enough start, if you don't draw enough of the cards, the anti-aggro cards, that half of the deck, then you just auto lose to Face Hunter. Which is brutal, by the way. But that's how aggro works, right? And so the problem is that the metagame, you don't have the tools. The decks just don't have the tools. There's I don't know, it's too swingy, you know? Because the metagame is like this scrambled mess, basically. Where, I can grab two things. This, and I'll grab this instead of a key. So the metagame, basically, it doesn't have enough decks that are good enough against, like, Patron and the other top tiers in order to exist. There's lots of tier 2 decks, right? And in the Archon Team League format, where they had it so it was 3 players, 2 decks each, you had to win 6 total games. When you won a game, you couldn't play the class again, or couldn't play the deck again. So basically, every player has to win twice in the thing. That it dramatically increased the amount of decks that were seen compared to the regular, like, Blizzard's format, where it's you yourself have 3 decks, you have to win with all 3 decks, right? And it's the same thing. You win, you can't use that one again. And so the thing is that allowed people to try shit. And the cool thing is there were a lot of really neat decks in there. But again, they just don't have good enough matchups against all of the above, right? Against Patron, Handlock, Control Warrior, Face Hunter, right? If you don't have 50% or better against every one of those decks, maybe, you know, maybe you have a worse matchup against one or whatever. Or let's say like half. If you can beat half of those decks consistently, then you've got like a real thing. But as it stands, there's not really a deck that allows you to do that. Which is the problem, right? The problem's not that Patron's too powerful. Yes, lots of people happen to build decks that, or play decks that beat Patron Warrior. Yes, a lot of them, their choice, in their decision-making process in that situation is almost explicitly tied to the idea of, I need to beat Patron Warrior. I understand this, but you have to remember that, you know, we're humans. We're just people. We don't know everything about everything, right? Just like so many people lose to Patron Warrior on the ladder, just because they actually have no fucking idea how to play against it, you know? You'll see these posts on Reddit where the people are like, oh, look at this bullshit, Patron Warrior killed me from 50 life. And it's like, oh, okay. So you're on turn 83, right? You're on turn 83. The Patron Warrior himself is also at, you know, 6,000 health. So I'm just gonna hazard a guess and say that you didn't try and pressure him and let him draw everything. Because that's how a Patron wins. That's how a combo deck wins. If you don't pressure a combo deck, and this is true in any single card game, again, there's so many of these things that people like to complain about, but it's just, you know, it's shit that you'd know if you had ever played another card game, if Hearthstone wasn't your first one. But combo decks love it when you don't kill them. That's how a combo deck wins, is that you don't kill them, and then they kill you, right? The entire purpose of a combo deck is do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, kill you! Oh my god! Right? So if you don't kill them while they're doing nothing, you fucked up! Yeah, combo decks can easily grind out a win by normal means, absolutely. Well, some, okay, some can. There's, you know, depending on the card game you're referring to, like if, let's say, I don't know, you're talking about eggs or something, God no. But, you know, Patron definitely can grind out a regular-ass win just by kind of valuing you, like outvaluing you, like, you know, going for 2-for-1s and shit like that, because they have reasonable spells to do that. Not just spells, I guess, also minions. But, I mean, if they're playing the shield block, shield slam version, then Yeah, they can absolutely win a regular game of Hearthstone. They don't have to combo you. But the thing is, right, most of the time, the wins will come from that, quote, bullshit. You know, the sort of, I think this is way better, by the way. The whole fucking, oh, I did nothing for 88 turns, and now he just killed me instantly in one turn. How bullshit is that? Well, I mean, I understand you're upset, but there's a billion different things you could have done here. And also, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of games where the combo deck combos sooner than you can deal with it. That happens. That happens in every card game. That's just, again, it comes with the territory. You're playing a card game. You have to get used to losing some games, winning some games due to sheer variance. That's part of it. There is no way that you can make a card game that is enjoyable and competitive that doesn't have some level of variance. But people seem to just get so focused on the whole, like, oh, it's too random. Well, then card games aren't for you. I'm sorry. So yeah, basically, the solution, back to my original conversation topic. The solution that Noxious proposed, and I've also seen it proposed a few times on the Hearthstone subreddit, is just give a ban format. Allow people to ban decks. That's it. So here's an example of a way to do it. Each player builds, let's say, 6 decks, right? You could go all the way. You could make them build 9 decks, sure. One for each class, of course. You could do that, absolutely. But I think more reasonably, let's say each player makes 6 decks, right? They clear the decks with the person in charge or whatever, you know, the admin, right? And that's it. Now they've got their 6 decks locked in. And let's say that you're doing this in Conquest fashion. I think it's Conquest, right? Maybe that's the name of the Archon Team League format. I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to names of formats. They're not very intuitive. Anyway, so you build your 6 decks, and let's say that you're doing it the same as what Blizzard normally does, which is you play, you have to win 3 games, you get 3 decks to do it, right? Easy peasy. Now, the way that you would do this, of course, is that each player would go, you know, there's a few different ways to do it, actually, so let me, fuck off, oh, god damn it, okay, come on, fuck this room, fuck you, why? I hate this fucking room, I hate this fucking room, I just hate this fucking goddamn room, I hate this fucking room, okay, why does it not say there's a, shouldn't there be spirit hearts in the shop? Like 2 or 3. There should be. I hope they're there. Shop's not letting me know that's the case. Anyway, so you'd go 3. Yeah, okay. You'd go, you know, player 1 bans, player 2 bans, player 1 picks, player 2 picks. Repeat, right? That same 4-step process until both players have 3 decks. That's it. You're told the classes that your opponent's playing and nothing else, just the classes, which makes sense, by the way. Telling them the actual deck in any fashion is a fucking idiotic move. That's part of the whole card game thing, but, you know, classes is good enough, I'd say. That's pretty good. So you're told there's 6 classes. And, you know, one deck for each class, of course. And then you ban, they ban, you pick, they pick. That's it. That's it. Or you could even, you know, reverse it. So it's your ban, their pick, your ban. Well, or no, your pick. Sorry, wait. I don't know what's happening in my brain right now. But the point is, there's a lot of easy ways to do this. And now here's the thing, right? You're gonna say, oh, well then everybody will ban Patron. And that clearly proves it's a problem. Maybe. But you don't fucking know. We don't know. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen what happens to the metagame when this system's in place. We don't fucking know. It's easy to say something. It's hard to back it up with actual evidence, right? The difficulty comes in the giving of evidence. And that's the problem people keep having, is when they're trying to say patron's broken this, patron's broken that. Like, where is your evidence? Because if it's single anecdotal situations where a patron warrior did a lot of damage in a single turn, I would disagree with your assessment. Also, the whole people who finally have noticed statistics, or who have finally had the statistics of patron warriors win rate being a solid 49% in competitive Hearthstone. People who have gotten those statistics shoved in their face when they're claiming patron's broken, who have, you know, finally read them, for some reason don't understand how a statistic operates, and are like, patron warrior still has a 50% win rate against the counter decks. How fucking broken is that? No, it fucking doesn't. That's not how statistics work. It has a 50% win rate flat across the field. That includes the decks where it beats the fuck out of them. That includes the fucking 90-10 matchups. The counter decks kick the shit out of it. Yeah, but I saw one game where a mid-range druid lost to patron warrior. That was one fucking game! God, I hate people. They're so stupid. You gotta... I don't understand how people have such a hard time understanding statistics. This is a common thing in all walks of life. There is just this group of people that exists that just... They regurgitate anything that sounds like it could be reasonable in their own head, even if it's not a true statistic, or if it's taken from something else, or, you know, it's just completely fucked up and they, you know, it's not even the study that the statistic is from has, like, incredibly potent selection bias, for example. And they're just like, oh yeah, well, such and such. And I'm like, where'd you fucking read that, on Gawker? Yeah, what's the problem? Gawker seems like a pretty good website. Fuck off. It's actually, like, the most frustrating shit, man. I think statistics are a wonderful thing that allow people to actually do a lot of stuff. I feel like a world without statistics is, like, a really fucking sad existence. I can't imagine, honestly. I'm really digging all these spacebar items, you know? They're just so great. But yeah, a world without statistics sounds like a fucking incredibly dark time. In fact, a world without statistics sounds like a world where we're attaching leeches to people's skins to remove the bad humors in their system. Or if they have a mental disorder, we just lop off a half of their brain, you know? That sounds like the world we'd be living in, if you ask me. Sharp-Plug does literally nothing here, unfortunately, so see you later. I will take this because I'm crazy. Alright. Didn't hurt. But yeah, we have 9-volt, which is why I'm not taking Sharp-Plug. There's no interaction between the two. 9-volt just completely blanks Sharp-Plug's existence, basically. So yeah, basically, there's so many just really bullshit, tiny little, not lies, but just inaccuracies that keep getting perpetuated by this incredibly upset group of people who, like, lost to Patron Warrior once on ladder, and, that's about it. Nah, I mean, in fairness, most tournaments for Hearthstone, in fact, the one that's going on right now for Hearthstone over the weekend, everybody's bringing pretty much the same 3 decks. They're bringing mid-range Druid, Handlock, Patron Warrior. Some people are bringing Control Warrior instead of Patron Warrior, but it's pretty much, those other 2 are pretty much just the same thing. And it's hard to say. I don't want to say one way or the other, But it's really hard to say if the handlock and mid-range druid are explicitly because they expect everyone else to have patron warrior. It's really hard to say. You could ask them individually, and that would be a way to prove it, but without actually asking them individually, the players, then you don't know. Maybe some of them are just like, I really like handlock, or I really like mid-range druid, you know? Or maybe it's the fact that mid-range druid is the most popular deck in competitive Hearthstone just flat out. That's just an actual thing. In fact, in the BRM season, the one where these statistics in competitive Hearthstone were taken, turns out mid-range druid is played, or was played, I believe, in 100 more matches than patron warrior, both breaking 1,000 games. I think mid-range druid is like 1,200, patron warrior is like 1,100 or something like that. And then I think handlock was around 900 or so. So, you know, I'm just saying, man, maybe mid-range druid is the fucking boogeyman, and maybe patron ain't even shit. Just maybe, you know. I'm just saying. Mid-range druid does have the highest win rate. Well, it not the highest. It has a high win rate in competitive Hearthstone. It has one of the highest win rates against patron warrior. And it's also the most popular deck in the metagame. And it also happens to have a combo that can kill you almost immediately. Not from 30, but you're not going to be at 30 against a mid-range druid. Let's be reasonable. You might be against a patron warrior, but mid-range druid's going to get you a lot lower than 30 over the course of 9 turns. While a patron warrior will maybe do 2 damage to you with their Acolyte of Pain. Or maybe their Armor Smith. But mid-range druid is the fucking... You know, oh, let me just innervate out a shredder. You know, coin innervate a shredder on turn 1. Good luck! And then you're like, wait, no, hang on. And then turn 9 comes, you're scrambling for board control still. And then they're just like, oh yeah, Force of Nature Savage Roar. And then you die. Maybe mid-range druid's the boogeyman, and the second the patron warrior gets nerfed, everybody will fucking realize that. And then everybody will be like, mid-range druid's ridiculous. Although it does have a not great matchup against Face Hunter. It has an okay matchup against Face Hunter if it's the Ancient of War version, the one that runs like double Ancient War, which is much less mid-range and much more control. But it's hard to really determine what is mid-range druid, what is control druid, what is combo druid, considering that they all share like 28 cards. So I'm gonna just continue saying druid with shredders, right? Because that's pretty much the difference between them. And druid with shredders still has a lot of different iterations. No, but really, I do think mid-range druid might just be the strongest deck in Hearthstone right now. I don't understand how either of those two hits, two lasers, 2 shots hit me. I actually am very confused and upset. Oh well. So yeah, all I'm saying, how did that hit me? Ah! I hate this game. Fuck. God damn it, this run sucks. I fucking hate this run right now. I really hate it. I just want it to be over, honestly. What's with all these runs being so fucking awful? I just don't get cool items if I'm not Isaac. That's not true. I got some cool items in the Samson run, and I believe in the Judas run as well. But still, man, this fucking run sucks. Anyway, all I'm saying is before you go jumping on a bandwagon to hate on something, first of all, think about what all your consumption of Haterade's gonna do to your blood system, and then of course think about you know, the actual facts, not just feelings. Bring the facts into the picture, especially when you're talking about if something is overpowered or underpowered. It's very important to use facts in those situations because that's, I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory. I don't know. I can't think of an actual reason, I'll be honest, but as I think about it, I'm like, yeah, this is why would this not be the case? I'm just having a brain fart. I apologize. But think about the facts. Think about what you're doing. Think about, you know, specifically if you're thinking about something that's overpowered, think about the things that could potentially counter it. Look at the things that counter it, because there will be things that counter it. If there are not, then you have an actual problem. You know, figure that shit out, and then finally, of course, the final thing, think about the feelings that you have towards it, this thing that you consider overpowered. Now, think about, will those feelings persist if another deck has the exact same win rates, if not better, in the same circumstances, but just plays differently? Because I promise you, if Blizzard nerfs Patron Warrior, at least dramatically so, if they give it a classic Blizzard nerf, or even a Riot nerf, I guarantee you, Midrange Druid will become the new Boogeyman. And if not Midrange Druid, maybe Face Hunter. Probably Face Hunter would be second place. And those decks, I don't know about you, I get a little bit more pissed off when I lose to those decks than to Patron Warrior, but maybe that's because I'm not a fucking idiot who doesn't know how to play against Patron Warrior. Maybe. Just maybe. Alright, body, get in there. Yeah, there you go. No, but seriously, there's an incredibly... Oh, I was hoping they wouldn't reach me. There's an incredibly large population of people who actually just don't know how to play against Patron Warrior, and then use that as their basis, the basis of their argument, you know? And like that, if you're gonna look at ladder statistics for win rates on Patron Warrior, first of all, we don't actually know them. I mean, at least not, you know, a large enough sample size. It's easy to, see you later. It's easy to collect the data for, for pro games because, you know, they're all, you know, Twitch VODs and shit. But it's really hard to collect data for ladder because you would probably have to dig through a large variety. What? Okay. You'd have to dig through a large variety of people's Twitch VODs of them just randomly laddering, right? You'd have to, and here's the other problem is that if you're gonna look at people of any rank, then you're gonna have other issues because you can't really try and diagnose a problem in a metagame based on the low ranks, while at the same time it's somewhat unreasonable to just look at high ranks. Really, like the only real way that you can balance, and it can be objective, you know, and it can be, you know, all whatever. The best way to balance is to balance around competitive gameplay. I'm not buying the shit that you have to balance around the lowest form of gameplay, right? Public games or whatever. In public games, I'm of course referring to something like Dota or League of Legends. Now, Riot, of course, loves to do their retard balancing, specifically pertaining to... Why was that guy spreading green goop and drops a key? Can somebody help me? I can't see the actual color of the champion because they're slow, but whatever. So Riot loves their really bad balancing, trying to balance around low levels of gameplay. And IceFrog has done it before in Dota. However, he didn't explicitly state that it was intended to be balanced around pub games. It was just an assumed thing. And let me elaborate. Basically, 6.78, the patch of the Space Cow, Spearbreaker had his highest public game win rate of all time. Breaking... God, did he break 70%? Probably not. I don't have the statistics on hand. I remember it being high 60s though, which is absurd, by the way, in a MOBA to have a single character have, you know, 60% really is the point where you start saying it's ridiculous, and then you get to like 65 and you're like, okay, they're gonna get nerfed. Even in pubs. Because the thing about pubs in Dota, of course, is that the resources that collect the data do it from all pub games, all of them, right? It doesn't leave out any, so it does include the high end, it includes the low end, and all that shit. So you can't really make a decision based on that, based on like how to balance for pro games and shit. But the important thing about Spearbreaker, I think, is that IceFrog might have looked at Spearbreaker as a hero and been like, this might have been a mistake, right? Without the actual data to back it up. Well, you know, obviously he had the data, but there's a chance that he was just looking at it and being like, this is a mistake, and then wanted to nip it in the bud before it actually became the competitive metagame. Because in 679, I believe the break between 678 and 679 wasn't very large. Also, Spearbreaker was discovered, if you will, fairly late into the patch. So, I mean, you know, IceFrog, it's hard to say without actually asking him what his decision was to balance there. And if you asked him now, he'd probably be like, oh, I don't fucking know. I don't remember. Also, you probably wouldn't be able to actually talk to him unless, you know, you were a friend of his or a Dota 2 personality, apparently, or a very high-profile professional Dota player. Because the thing about IceFrog that makes him awesome is that he stays completely anonymous to the public, at least, which is great. And that's partially done because before Dota was actually like a super huge thing, like it's been popular for a long ass time, right? Specifically, of course, it started as a Warcraft 3 custom game, and it was a very popular game, custom game in that time frame, absolutely. But the other thing is, you know, it didn't have the, God, what's the player base up to now? 12 million, I want to say. They didn't have 12 million people. So people weren't really interested in who IceFrog was. You know, they just didn't really care. It was just like, he's the dude who's balancing the game after, you know, all the dickwads that left to go make League left the game. So it's just like, yeah, he's just some dude. You know, nobody gave a shit. And he didn't really... I'm assuming he didn't really take any precautions or anything to protect his identity or anything. However, one thing he did do was he posted a picture of his new cat. Right, he got a new little kitten, and he was like, "What should I name it?" Because he's excited, and he posted it on like the Dota All Stars forums or something. Right, that's where all the people hung out. And that's a whole other fucking pile of shit relating to League, but specifically Pendragon. But you know, on the Dota All Stars forums, he's like, "Hey, what should I name my cat? Isn't she adorable?" She probably, I don't know, maybe it was he, I don't remember. And then the community at the time was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Go balance the game!" And he's like, "Shit, sorry." And he received, you know, like death threats and shit. And then that was the time when he pretty much cut ties with the American, or the English-speaking Dota 2 audience. And he actually didn't, I believe he didn't communicate at all with the English-speaking Dota 2 audience, or Dota, sorry, not Dota 2, Dota, until roundabouts, like the general audience, of course, not including pro players and casters and shit. Because they all know who he is. And of course, you know, Valve knows who he is. He works for them. So he didn't actually have, like, any dialogue at all until Dota 2 beta keys were going out. And then it was very limited and only to people who had beta keys, or who like wanted beta keys and or had beta keys or whatever. And then he again like vanished until fairly recently, when he started to comment a bit more often on the Dev Dota forums. And even now, though, you know, the whole thing is he's very secretive. There are people who know who he is, but most people do not. And I think that's cool. I think it's a cool thing. Yeah, he can pretty much do whatever the fuck he wants, and the thing is, the only time in my memory in Dota 2 that people have really questioned him in total, and I'm not just meaning like, what's this tiny little change that seems inconspicuous, but after months of research of the 12 million players, we have now found out that it's too powerful. You know, other than that, the only time the community has really been upset with IceFrog, like in a sense that they disagreed with the decision so dramatically that a lot of them stopped playing, was the meme back patch 6.82, I believe. That patch was fucking retarded. So as long as he doesn't repeat the meme back patch, everything's fine. And I call it the meme back. Everybody calls it the meme back because it was literally a meme at that point that you would be able to come back. Not only were you able to come back, you were the comeback was automated, right? Because it implemented a ridiculous rubber band effect. So if one team got too far ahead, the other one got far too much stuff in compensation for being behind. And the remnants of it still exist and make games closer now, which is actually pretty good. They finally tuned the numbers to a point where it's not very dramatic. But in the initial implementation of that patch, there was a strategy that 5stacks began doing. And my 5stack, we lost to it like 5 times before actually trying to do it ourselves, at which point we won 3 in a row. Small sample size, but interesting enough. And most 5stacks were doing it. But basically the plan was, you fucking do nothing. In the first 30 minutes, you kill yourself. You run into the enemy heroes and fucking die. You, like, you know, continue getting experience and stuff so you don't fall behind that far on experience, but you just go and you fucking die. And what you do is you have on your team a bunch of people who can nuke, right? You have, like, a Lion and a Lina as your 2 supports, and then one of your cores is fucking, I don't know, like, God, who was even good in that patch? Probably Gyrocopter. Oh, Spectre was good. You know, you just have burst heroes or late game carries, right? And then what you do is you're now down 30 kills. They're about to push into your barracks. You smoke up. You go from behind them. You finger of death, Laguna Blade one dude. He's fucking dead. You know? Guess what? You killed one dude. Now, everybody on your team got 5 levels and 6,000 gold. Oh, nice. I finished my next item. And now we've rubber banded beyond the opposing team, and now we just win. Now we just snowball that straight down the mid lane and end the game, right? So that was ridiculous shit. Other than that, though, everybody has really, you know, IceFrog could do anything, and we'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. Everything is great. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that run. That was a coolish Eden run. I really wish it was like a lot more powerful, but it wasn't bad. Let's see here. Next episode, we'll probably do Maggie. Might do Blue Baby. Try and rip it off like a band-aid. Regardless, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And, you know, comment, like, subscribe, all that shit. And I will see you guys in the next episode.